to your channel?
Let's see here. It's in the link that I posted on Twitter.
Okay.
Let's see here. Give me a... God, I hate DLive sometimes.
Why?
I have to re-enter.
Terrible user experience.
Yeah, I have to re-enter the information all the time. Yeah, okay, whatever. DTube, DLive.
So one thing before, you know, I'll talk about Puerto Rico, but one thing is like I was doing some security stuff out there too.
Right.
Physical security. I'm not going to talk about that.
As in
Okay.
physical security?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about your...
Not on camera anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Remember that technically we are live right now. So
Yeah,
be
dude.
careful about what you say.
Well.
Well then. Oh, can you hear? Okay. I need to know if you guys can hear it all right. Is it on YouTube or no? Yeah. See, we're on YouTube. Go ahead and tell me if you can see anything.
See it on YouTube. I can see it on Twitter, but it's
see,
loading. I have LTE. I gotta get whatever. You see it on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm checking something else.
I'm mostly curious as to whether you can hear the sound all right. That's the issue.
Okay, yeah. See it live on YouTube. Let's see if we get. Yep.
Yo.
I'm mostly curious as to whether you can hear the sound all right. That's the issue. One of you guys turn yours off and make sure it doesn't loop.
My video's not working, but I see it on my...
Cool. See it on mine, and it's counting down.
How much time we got?
3 minutes and 24 seconds.
Cool.
Actually, it looks pretty good too.
Good. Every so often the video will freeze,
Yeah.
but I can handle that.
I need to make sure I don't fidget as much.
So we got, yeah, Intel patenting.
The video did freeze, but at least on here.
Yeah.
But
So now it should be no longer frozen. Just make sure, check. Make sure it's not looping at all. The audio, make sure the audio is not looping. You need to actually turn it on. Make sure, check. Make sure it's not looping at all.
well, if the audio loops, I would see the time looping too. It's not just gonna loop just audio, right?
No, we've had issues with it in the past where
Really?
it's feeding something from my computer, which also has a browser open.
I'm about to go full Luddite on this shit. Like, it's pissing me off. All this tech.
Yeah.
Fuck technology.
You gonna do active shooter on a YouTube live stream?
I'm a jaded white man, you know?
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
angry. Everyone's angry.
How much time do we got left?
2 minutes.
God damn. Okay.
Camera look. Give my camera my
What the fuck
eyes.
do I have to do to goddamn motherfucking...
Guess this one ain't getting
Don't
monetized.
cover up like that. Own it,
to
dude.
download
Yeah, just-
something.
Just fucking own it.
God damn it!
I think
Yeah.
one of the podcasts, a friend of mine's dad texted me to stop cursing.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Man, shut the fuck up.
Doug, you hear
That's
that?
not how it works, yeah.
Don't
We will
curse.
say what we feel like.
That's the thing about that blockchain, that D Live. You still get money. You know
I think
what
he was being a little sarcastic though, knowing
Yeah.
him.
Or you could be overdoing it too, where you just.
Well, yeah, right. It's all about
But curse-
thresholds, balance. Right?
I think cursing is like a form of
Oh, shit.
breathing meditation. Fuck you. They all push out a lot of air.
It's emotional.
Can one of you guys put on your headphones and let me know if,
Mine are on.
all
Oh,
of
you
us have
mean-
them on?
with the stream, let me know if you hear music for the intro when it starts to switch.
Do you mean to put on like these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Test it out. Is
yeah,
that what you're saying?
Yeah. Let me know once it starts going. I can't get a small logo. I have no small logos.
Hey, you're looking tan, dude.
Yeah, man. I was getting some sun in a whole bunch of places. Actually, this San Diego sun burns though.
It does.
Yeah. We could be
Alright,
out the
let's
sun all
see.
day other places.
How much time do we have left?
16 seconds.
I can definitely hear it.
15,
I can
All
hear
right.
it, but I can't.
Well, we'll just have to go with what we got.
10, 9,
But I think that might be because of
There
the
you go.
connection.
Can you hear it?
7,
Anything here?
Welcome
6,
aboard
5.
to the Captain Crypto Show. Today,
Oh, there we go. I'm seeing it a little bit.
we join
Right,
the
question
Captain's
is,
Council
is
to
there
discuss
any
the
audio
latest
with it?
developments in the world of cryptocurrency.
Well, we are going. We'll
Currency.
go ahead and,
Here's your host.
We are
Kylan Hurt.
I'm going in.
getting a little
I'm
choppy
going
there.
in.
Got to work on that animation. It's getting a little choppy there.
Who's in charge of
that? Ladies and gents, welcome aboard to the Captain Crypto Show. Today it's Tuesday, April 3rd, 2018. That means, oh God, look at my hair. Whew. That means it's another episode of our Captain's Council. Tonight I am joined by Tay off to my right and Brett off to my left. So we could start with a bunch of different things, but actually I would like to start with Tay. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your travels, because you've been gone for a while, and I think you're in Puerto Rico, maybe in Mexico, or maybe that was earlier. So why don't you go ahead and start giving us a little bit of the lowdown of what your little exploits were like.
Yeah, my little ventures. So Puerto Rico was cool. Went out there with two other guys from the San Diego area.
Right.
Went out there for Crypto Poco. Then they changed the name up to something else. Either way, Puerto Rico is definitely, I come back with the feeling it definitely is a place for pioneers in crypto. You know, some people would, I guess there was an article out the other day that said something calling us like colonists. I mean, because, mainly it was like white males. So it was a female talking about that and being like, well, it's like a colonial thing. Well, it's just different. I mean, yes, people are going out there for the investment opportunities, trying to make money, be around other like-minded people, which there was a lot of. And I think overall it's going to be a benefit for Puerto Rico. We did have a call to action on the Sunday we were out there. I think they called it Service Sunday.
Right.
So I think the organization by Brock Pierce, he set up he called it Service Sunday, but basically he challenged everybody to get up on Sunday, and they had all these different projects. It was like an early morning to like 10 o'clock, and a lot of people out partying the night before. But a lot of people were up, I'd say most people were out there at 10 o'clock a.m., getting in vehicles out in front of the hotels,
right,
and going into the hinterland or inside the island. And they had
hinterland. It sounds like something out of like The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings or something. That sounds scary.
It felt like it
Was it
because when you're driving out there, I got some footage of it, but when you're driving out there, it's the place we went anyway, was an orphanage, and it took about an hour and a half driving just up and down hills on like, little roads going up these mountains that were like one lane. So if a car came, a lot of times you'd have to stop, really slow down or you could see a lot of hurricane devastation was still not repaired out there.
Yeah, so
for obvious reasons.
Yeah, what percentage do you think would be repaired by now versus not repaired? If you could like come up with a number.
If you're on the coast where most people are going to be hanging out, I would say probably 80% is good. I mean, maybe some of the road signs are on the highways, some of the stoplights are down, but I mean, you can figure that out in like 5 minutes after you adjust. But inside, in the mainland, there's less people there, so let's get that straight. There's a lot less people, but it's harder to get out there. So you see it right away. I would say it's probably still like maybe only 25% has been fixed
on the interior area.
Yes, because you can see the crews out there fixing it, trying to, but it's just so hard to get out there. And then once they fix something, it sounds like there's other crews that are trying to fix other things, and it's actually taken away from the one crew. Like they'll try to fix wires, and they're taking out wires that one crew laid down that they were going to fix the next week.
Wow.
So there's that going on.
So there's a little bit of coordination issues in Puerto Rico.
Right. There's that, and then there's also the geography is the main thing, because all of that would be simple if it was flat, easier to get to, but
lots of mountains, stuff like that.
Yes.
So what specifically are the crypto colonizers, as the young lady put it, working on?
There's a lot of different projects.
Colonizers.
So there was one for the orphanage. There's actually they actually put up solar panels before we were there, but we were going back to check up on that. Another crypto group was coming out to basically find out what the orphanage needed to expand or make things better. So they had the solar thing put in before, so power shouldn't be an issue unless they need more solar panels, which I'm sure is on the way. There was another family that we went to, and he had the same thing. He had power issues, so they set up him with solar panels and actually another harder structure for him to live in. So they started construction on that, and it's basically like a, you know, if the three of us were out there for a weekend, we could probably get 90% of that construction done. It's a
tie those
project.
solar energy panels into crypto. So what?
So the funding is from right. The funding is coming from crypto startups. So you have blockchain capital out there.
Okay.
And other, I think Startup Week was doing something. I forgot the name of the company. It slips my memory right now. But there was crypto companies out there funding a lot of these projects directly. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. So is this something where you hear these kind of murmurs, I guess you could say, about Puerto Rico and whether or not they're going to try to, because they have an occasional, I guess, referendum where they vote on where they want to be independent or not. Did you get kind of a vibe from them on where they are with that? Because I know after the whole, what was it that they had? It was a hurricane, right?
Hurricane,
yeah. And then Trump essentially. Yeah, in my opinion, he handled it very poorly.
What do you mean? He was shooting the napkins.
Well, did
Obama do that, dude? Did Obama do that?
There was
my God.
So as far as the politics of it, all I know is there was the senator of the San Juan area. So I guess Puerto Rico split up like that.
Right.
I guess he's the youngest U.S. senator ever. He was, you know, I met him personally, but he was in the area at a lot of the blockchain events and all that. So
is he a senator or a congressman?
Maybe congressman. I don't know.
But he has he can speak on the floor of
I believe
the U.S. Congress kind of.
Yep.
Okay.
So he was there. I saw him. If the event was 3 days, I saw him at least 2 out of the 3 days. So you definitely get the feel that it's serious there. It's not just some joke, you know?
Right.
And I will tell you that there are a lot of people. I mean, I can't tell you what's been going on in the news with Brock Pierce here, but out there, he's definitely the man.
He's the man. Yeah.
Well,
There's a lot of allegations, but I don't. You know, those are things that didn't really stick. He wasn't charged with anything, and I mean, I don't know.
Like I said, I don't know.
I
don't know what the deal is on that, but all I do know is he has a lot of movement and sway in Puerto Rico, and it looks like he's using it in the correct way by the projects I saw.
Right.
And the way the people were embracing him.
Okay, so that's definitely some good news. So was that the main part of your trip? Because I know you were gone for a while.
Yes, that was the beginning of the trip. Then I went back to the East Coast, you know, the DMV area, talking with family there. And, you know, so it's interesting now that you have and it's been, I would say, last time I went back home was probably November. So it's interesting to see how people's attitude is now after the rise and fall. You know, and I was impressed. One of my uncles, you know, they're still on it. They're like, and I'm telling them what the price did and what it's at now, and they're like, yeah, but it's still up since you told us about it. Like, yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's
you know
right.
What I mean? So a lot of them are actually like, okay, yeah, like before I even bring it to them, like, yeah, I think probably a good time for me to buy now. Like, yeah,
they're starting to get the hang of it.
I can tell we're related, you know.
It runs in the family.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Brett, have you seen kind of the same thing? Because obviously we saw the big rise, the frantic bubble, and then the crash, and definitely for starters, some of the projects that don't have much integrity to them are definitely falling by the wayside. But also the people who don't have the conviction in the technology or the philosophy behind the movement are starting to get washed out. Doesn't it seem that way?
Definitely. Yeah, is there another... I don't know if I can expand on that because I agree fully, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I guess bringing it back to the Puerto Rico example, and I agree fully with your sentiment, right? We were in a phase of irrational exuberance. It's not even like bubble. It was a frenzy, right? It was even past bubble behavior. And we've retraced, and the market keeps fighting at a certain level, and a lot of the shit projects have really... died
been
in a lot of
cleansed.
different ways.
Oh yeah, and some of the scammier ones, you have the SEC going after them as well. So they're getting hit on multiple fronts.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I don't own anything that can be sued. That's just like a general heuristic. So if it can be sued, I don't own it unless it, you better be a security, right? That goes through the due diligence, goes through the SEC or whatever regulatory body. But I know there was one coin, I think something called Centracoin that one of their some of their top guys or gals, whatever they have, gender nonconforming,
right?
Diversity panel
Neutral,
that they have,
right.
Whoever been arrested. I think they were on their way to the airport, and I think
they almost got away.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of regulators in general, but a scam's a scam, and they obviously didn't follow the rules. But the Puerto Rico thing is really, really interesting to me because it's definitely a testing ground for new ways to fundraise. So I know a little bit about Puerto Rico in the sense that I know that they've had a lot of problems with public debt.
Yes,
a lot of that they have to deal with the traditional legacy banking system that's basically a debt-based inflationary based system, and they get on these debt binges, and they really can't handle debt very well. I think crypto opens up a new possibility for funding and fundraising that kind of skirts around the nation state. Puerto Rico is heavily dominated by the United States and U.S. financial markets, and this could be a way for them to sidestep that. And I could see why Brock Pierce would be the man, because he commands a lot of respect and capital, and seems pretty motivated to do something with it. And I don't know how successful it'll be, but something that nation states have been doing for a long time is raising, and one of their key use cases that a lot of people that like the government is they're able to raise a lot of money and deploy capital for infrastructure.
Right.
Crypto makes that possible for like public utilities, right? Raising money from a very, very diverse set of investors and a diverse set of capital, or capital all over the world can now maybe they set up some type of infrastructure fund for Puerto Rico somehow, and it's some type of it's an equity investment that can draw in capital from all over the world, and it's tokenized in some way. It can be traded, right? There's so many different unique and creative ways to raise money now that Puerto Rico is kind of there's nothing for them to lose.
I believe I saw something today. They actually were good on their bonds that they just issued from Maria. Mm-hmm. So I mean, people were astounded that they got like 95% returns on a 6-month bond already. So I believe it was real quick. Just before I came up here, I saw something on that, but that's showing a sign that there's, I will tell you straight up, like I saw a lot of money going into Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So it's
fertile ground.
A lot of people don't understand, especially coming from mainland United States, don't understand how business truly works around the world. And it's a lot simpler than they make it seem here, because you have to do so many things. And just take the president, for instance. Like, how many times did he go bankrupt? It was a financial play. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a,
it's a set of tools.
Right.
Bankruptcy is
exactly.
a tool
So
set. Yeah.
It's not just bankruptcy. It's all kind of things. So debt, if you know how to use it, or know how to work it and all that. But I'm not saying Puerto Rico was savvy like that. But what I am saying is that with the people they have there now, I believe they'll be on a new track very quickly. And people who doubt it, I mean, obviously anything can happen, but it's kind of, they got Bitcoin in there, crypto in their back pocket. With all that going on, they're an island. They have less regulations. They got the tax advantages going on. I mean, you add it up, and then they got really smart people, adventurers pushing out there. If you're into crypto and you're betting against Puerto Rico, like, you're probably one of those crypto people that'll have, like, you think, I don't know, Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin or something. Mm-hmm. You can't be an adventurous mindset monetarily and then look at Puerto Rico and think, okay, it's probably going to fail. Anything can fail.
And a lot of these, I don't know, smaller political units are doing really interesting things with, I guess, blockchain or Bitcoin. So either like individual states within the United States, like Wyoming or Arizona or Tennessee, are trying to pass laws, you know, about crypto or smart contracts, whatever. They may not be good or really, you know, like the definitions might be a little hazy, but you're seeing like states like Malta, basically rolling out the red carpet for Binance.
Exactly.
The Republic of Georgia, right? All these like little places that don't have a lot to lose and have everything to gain from new international.
They have a lot to lose if they don't innovate.
What I'm saying is they're so Yeah, I understand that it's an opportunity cost. What I mean is like if they don't do it, or if they do it and it fails, it's like at least they got a short term boost in some respect. But I think Puerto Rico's in a
also you forgot Switzerland.
Perfect use case right there.
You forgot Switzerland, which
they're always at the forefront of financial innovation
and the thing is
privacy.
Like they're just a small country that has. Nobody messes with Switzerland because they have everybody's money.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. It gives them a little bit more leverage. And yeah, it is interesting what you're talking about when it comes to financing, because there have been wars that have been created and revolutions because governments will rack up debt, and then what they'll do is they'll get a bailout from some larger company or larger organization like the IMF or something like that. And unfortunately, it's the government that racks up the debt, and then in order to get like a loan, in order to help finance the government going forward, what they do is they give up some sovereignty to either the IMF or the United States or whatever the larger organization is.
Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, and that's how these smaller countries lose power. It's how they lose sovereignty. So any sort of way that they can find to finance things going forward without taking on that sort of debt, I think is a great idea. And like Brett mentioned, especially if you could tokenize something, where if you were to make some sort of utility and say, okay, hey, the profits will actually go to the token holders, which might actually be the residents as well, or something like that. That could be very innovative. Definitely a very different sort of paradigm when it comes to public financing. So I am curious. It's been, let's see here, Sunday was April Fool's, and I was curious if you guys saw any April Fool's jokes that you liked, preferably cryptocurrency related. I know there were a few that kind of, how would I say, that caught my eye. And I'll be honest, we're talking about cryptocurrency, so you don't always... We're not exactly.
We're not the funniest bunch. Is that what you're saying?
We're not. Yeah, we're not the best. We're not the best comedians. One that I saw that actually, maybe not the most original, but I did see people fall for it, was crypto. You know, he does crypto news. It's Omar Baum, I think is his real name. He's on YouTube. Yeah. He said essentially because of all the bad, negative comments and dislikes he's been getting on YouTube that he was quitting. And so I saw that. I was like, okay, like obviously this April 1st.
Did you guys see the Trezor one?
What was it?
Pretty good.
Trezor T?
No, they released a scooter.
A scooter?
Yeah, it was like with a hardware wallet built in.
With built in?
Yeah. I like
nice.
that.
Do you think anyone
had a picture?
Was anyone falling for it? I think everyone's
I'm not
guard.
Sure. I didn't get that into it.
Everyone's guard is up. I did notice on the for crypto when he said that, Amanda B. Johnson actually chimed in. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you help like deal with your issues." Everyone's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" It's April 1st.
Got him.
Like, yeah. So she fell for it, which it happens. You know, maybe you wake up in the morning, you forget what time it is. CoinMarketCap. Let's see here. They started denominating some of the currencies in Lambos, which is actually a feature that I think maybe they should keep around.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind that one. Whale Panda, who's pretty well known on Twitter, he said the real April Fool's joke is the price of Bitcoin right now, which maybe there's some truth to that. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, and Vlad from Ethereum. He actually said, his was actually kind of funny because he's like, hey, by the way, everyone, actually, if you do send me some crypto, some Ethereum, I'll send you 5 Ethereum back for every Ethereum you send to me.
That's kind of dangerous.
That's what I'm saying.
That's kind of dangerous.
No.
I'm fine with that, but like, there's some people that...
That's what some people said, dude, you should at least put in like an invalid address so that no Ethereum actually comes your way.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been more responsible. Yeah, I'm all about responsibility, man.
Yeah, I didn't do anything April Fool's really. We were thinking about doing some stuff for Edge, but I don't think we were quite ready to pull it off. So So
I think it's too much of a gamble. April Fools with people's money, like
yeah,
you get the wrong person, and then you have a critic for life.
Yeah,
you have a hater for life.
Yeah, it's actually funny because one time, I don't know if you knew this, but Fluffy Pony from the Monero project made a big. This was, I think, at Consensus last year, and he's like, "Hey, we have a really big announcement that we're gonna make tomorrow," and everyone's making all these big announcements. Everyone was going nuts. And the next day he said, "Yeah, the announcement is there's no announcement. You guys are suckers." And I know a guy who bought on that rumor, and I think lost money because of it. And he still
you don't see the banks. You don't see the banks doing April Fools, do you? Because it's serious.
Speaking of humor in crypto,
yeah.
See if you guys agree with this. Top 3 humorous groups. I think BTC, the original BTC OGs, were because they had to meme the shit out of the coin at the beginning, and there was no other coin in town.
Gotcha.
Dogecoin's there,
and Monero.
Monero's up there. Yeah, we have some.
Those are the top 3 humorous communities in my estimation.
But now that
are there more?
Now that
that's
the
the
community
question. That's the question.
Back then, you're only dealing with the nerds, the true nerds, But now you're dealing with
mom, pop,
yeah. Everybody's in
parents.
Everybody's in the crypto.
You can't be a funny parent.
No, you can't. Well,
right, that's
what
called
I'm
being
saying
a
is,
bad parent.
What I'm saying is so you got the humor's coming from the nerds. So first off, regular folk are not going to get half of what they're talking about anyway, even if they are being serious. And then they're joking about something, and then they're putting their money on it, and then they don't get it, and it's a bad taste. I think it's just a bad snowball. I mean, I'm probably blowing it way out of proportion, but that's what I'm doing. And
well, we got to get viewers here.
Exactly. So I gotta pump some type of FUD in some kind of way. No April Fools for crypto. That's what I'm saying. For 2019, let's grow up crypto. No April Fools. Let's just get this money. If you want to do your own April Fools with your Lambo or whatever, do that. But if you run a crypto company, you probably should just stay away from all that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something where people in general are starting to kind of get over the whole April Fool's thing, and the people who are doing April Fools are making it kind of obvious that it's April Fool's now.
Yes.
So it's just plain silly. They're not trying to actually make you believe it. They're just like, ha ha, see.
Even Google's April Fools are corny.
Yeah, they're cheesy.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how you have to do it.
Yeah, the bigger you get, the less
cheesier you get.
Well, because if you're not offensive, then you're not funny. You're really not.
Yeah.
True.
Like, and when you're big like that, you just can't. Right? Anything Google does, they sneeze. Everyone's on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Luckily at Edge, we can be a little edgier.
Ooh, yeah.
Nice shirt, Tay, by the way.
Yeah. There we go. Represent. It's like it's almost. It probably looks like the shirt is like rotating because every episode someone new is wearing it.
I wear this every couple days.
Yeah. Taking over the Edge podcast.
Wash it every couple weeks. Wear it every couple days.
Okay, so I guess the next thing I wanted to discuss was technical analysis.
Woo woo!
Oh,
I love it.
You're okay. So I know Tay knows a little bit more about technical analysis than I do. For those of you at home,
a little bit more.
Well, I mean, okay, we'll get to all of this in a moment. For those of you at home who are in the audience who don't know what technical analysis is, it's not just looking at technical stuff. It's actually when you start looking at the graphs for the price and the other statistics involved, usually with price, but with cryptocurrency, it can be market cap, it can be anything, but it's usually price. And there are people who make entire careers out of looking at what they call patterns in these graphs, and they try to use what they know about these supposed patterns to predict what's going to happen next. I'm just going to point out that I don't think I've seen any of these TA experts be able to predict what's been happening these last few months, and like. Even the best of the best, I mean, they're coming up with all sorts of new patterns. They have these Elliott wave things, which are financial, they're actual traditional financial supposed patterns. And the word on the street is that they're not even that good at predicting that.
Right.
And now I got people talking about Fibonacci sequences.
Fibonacci's are real, man. That's a real thing.
Yeah, but here's my problem is that these things are looking at patterns in prices, and the price is a consequence of factors that are causing them to change. And it seems like people are looking at these supposed patterns, these Fibonacci sequences, these Elliott waves, and they're trying to make it as if those are actually the cause of what's happening with the price, when in fact I think they're just the graphical representation of the things that are causing the changes in the price.
So it's weird because I agree with you, but I don't kind of agree with your tone, right? Because your tone is saying that it's all magic.
It's
right?
all fugazi fugazi.
Yeah, it means nothing. But at the same point, it's like saying, I don't know, you're watching animal tracks in the wild, and you're saying, oh, because there's tracks here, these guys think there's going to be animals over here. Well, there were animals right here at one point. So if we're going to guess where they're going to go, we're going to follow the tracks. And I am not 100% like, okay, I do everything off of TA. You know, I'm more of I don't know what you call my style. But when I first got into investing, even with stock market, that's what I looked at. I looked at not TA, not anybody's TA, but I just looked at the charts because that's all you have to go off of. So the last financial crisis, 2009-10, all I did was look at Google Finance and look at stocks that were doing well before the crash. And then I looked at their charts and then tried to make my best guess on which ones would come back or be well off. And then obviously I'm doing some fundamental analysis. I'm looking at Amazon. Are people still using them? Starbucks, all that type of stuff. And then the weird thing is you can look at the news, and whichever ones you look at the charts and fundamentals and they kind of look decent in your opinion, and the news is actually fudding them, they're probably a good buy at that point. So, but going back to TA with crypto, it's a real thing. Fibonacci's, they do have, even if they can't predict the price, the Fibonacci's do show a point where something's going to happen. Either it's going to hit and go a lot further, or hit and pause, or hit and go a lot higher. Those things do happen on Fibonacci's because it is just the rhythm of what's been happening, how people react. So some people, I think actually I can, maybe for some cryptos, I can probably call it out in my head without looking at a chart, that once it gets to this price, because I remember it was there for so long a year ago, that it will probably have problems there. Right. And that's exactly what you're doing with Fibonacci lines. You're looking at it on a chart. So it's some truth to it. But if you believe in this stuff long term, that's all just a blip on the page. I mean, it's something happens there, but it doesn't have to change your long-term 5-10 year strategy.
Yeah, I think when it comes to some stuff does make sense, and I don't know if like support lines are considered part of technical analysis, but some of that stuff like buy wall, support line stuff, some of that I can see how those are relevant. But when I start reading about, especially as we're still young and there's manipulation going on, I mean, if someone wants to manipulate the market, which has happened plenty of times, it doesn't matter what kind of sequence or pattern or triangle things look like they're in. Someone can completely...
Yeah, they can get too fancy with it and be like, all right, this pattern here, and people can draw all kind of stuff or whatever. But
maybe I'm looking at the wrong people, to be fair. You know, I mean, maybe I'm not watching the right people.
And there's some people who are the right people, but that's all they do, right? So they're going to come up with all kind of strategies inside of strategies and analysis inside of analysis. They're just like, oh, well, I just need a bigger picture. You know what I mean? Like,
is it going up or is it going down?
Right. How long is it going down? Like, and most people can't tell you that, or how long it's going to go up.
Right.
They cannot tell you that. But what they can tell you is like, all right, maybe here. And then normally if it hits there, then they'll tell you the next possible outcome. And that's all it is. Like, once you think too far ahead with technical analysis, you're kind of out of your element.
Right. Yeah, I will point out, at least from what I've seen, I also noticed there's kind of this trend where people are doing technical analysis. They want everyone else to look at their YouTube channels and their blog posts, their Medium posts. And for whatever reason, and I think it's just wishful thinking, once they have all these patterns and then they get to the point where, okay, this is now, like the next thing is never a straight line sideways, which a lot of the times in real life, that's what happens. It's always like, oh no, it's going to keep going down, or oh no, it's about to go up. Like, is that something where, I mean, that doesn't, if you say it's going sideways, you don't get clicks, I guess.
There's always a market for mathematical certainty and just like confidence in general.
Right.
Because people have no idea what the fuck is going on and have no idea what the fuck is using. So they're going to cling to people that will sell them certitude. And I think a lot of people pumping the bad stuff. So what right? I feel like maybe I've seen some really good traders out there put out some really good stuff. But that's like, 10% of the stuff out there. And a lot of them they're dealing with like a probability space, and they're using these tools of technical analysis, which is basically looking at history, right? And sometimes history is your only guide, even if it's not a good guide. So it can kind of give you, all right, some heuristics on, all right, where are the support levels? What's the 200-day moving average? What's exchange activity looking like? Are these things, is this a wave function, right? Is it not a linear function? Is it parabolic, right? What is the phenomena we're looking at? What type of tools are we looking at? But your tone is the right tone in the sense that a lot of it, the tools are overused or overstated in their effectiveness because they can never model the complexity of this stuff, and they can never predict it. And all the people, the more certain they are and loud, the less I want to listen. The guys that I respect in TA, because I don't particularly, I'm not a trader by mindset, but they are constantly positioning themselves, repositioning themselves, and they have certain guidelines where if it gets past a certain level, they will take certain actions.
Right.
And they're never dealing in a world of certainty because they know that their models can break down or whatever, the Fibonacci, whatever they're using. The really good people understand that it's just one way of looking at it. So they also mix in some fundamental analysis in there as well, right? They're just not going to be trading shit tokens because the chart said, but the really good people can use it as a tool, and they don't get over zealous, over confident in that call.
Right.
But it's like general guidelines and saying, hey, history isn't exactly predictive, but it can give us some clues as to, is this run up sustainable, right? Is this downtrend coming to an end? There's a lot of things that you can pull from past performance and use as your guidepost, because at the end of the day, we're all blind.
I think also too, there's unlike with the stock market and all that going on, we got unknown levels of money that are coming in. So a down market, we don't know how strong, how long it could go down because there's new players on at the table now that weren't here last year.
Right.
So it could be possibly a lot more money coming in by the end of this year. I mean,
that's what some people have been saying, right?
So if they're coming in, they want a good start. They don't want to buy high, right? So if they can, there's always manipulation in any kind of market.
And it's still so young at this point that even if someone doesn't have $1 trillion, it doesn't take too much still to impact the market in general, especially not an individual coin.
Well, it depends which coin. If you're talking about the top, you're talking about $1 billion coin, I think you probably need at least 10 million, at least 10 million, and that's for $1 billion coin with a $1 billion market cap. So most of the top 5 is well above that. So, I mean, unless you got $100 million and your buddies you have hundreds of millions of dollars, you're going to put it on a public exchange where people can see you moving it. And that's going to take time. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to put that kind of money in by the end of this week and have it be in effect by next week. So when you really think about it, I mean, even the dark pools and the OTC markets and all that, they don't have a big effect. If you're trying to short or push the market, whatever you're trying to do, you want it to be known what you're doing. You want people to see that money moving, right? So I'm sure there's...
Tay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So would you say the best use of technical analysis, if you're using it, is setting up, I guess, some marks where you're taking profits off the table,
right,
and you're protecting your downside, right? So you
yes,
survive and you can lock in profits, right? That's
I guess
to me, that's
if you're trading, yes,
you're identifying certain patterns that have happened historically, and you're like the best guys are really humble,
right.
They're not like making. That's why I see some of these guys on Twitter and they're so certain and confident,
right.
And
wrong.
I understand the bet on their part is if they're right, their popularity goes through the roof.
Well, here's the
right. So if they're wrong, people don't really remember. They don't care.
Here's the difference.
And no one's keeping track.
Like, and there's no in the short term there is no benefit for being thinking in probabilities and not thinking you're certain.
Right.
The people that are like yelling and like, oh, I got the chart and this is where it's going to go.
Here's what I follow by. It depends on their time horizon, what they're talking about. So for me, I'm not trying to cash out of crypto like next month or not even next year, really. I mean, I wanted to do well. Every day I wanted to do well. But if somebody I'm following is constantly worried about the short term, like you can tell they're worried about the short term and they're trying to make you see people on Twitter all the time trying to make these calls and they got to be right. Like those people, their timelines are too short and I don't care who you are, what your track record is. It could be 100%. You're going to be wrong because you're trying to guess what's happening next week.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's being wrong in the right way where you still survive.
Exactly. So the people I like to follow, I mean, even Tone Vase, right? Like he straight up says it like he's making calls. He says he doesn't trade. He's just holding. So like that lets you know right there. Like, like he can say whatever he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's up to you as a viewer to hold him accountable in your own right, whether you're going to trust him or not. So if you saw something somebody said and you're just going off of the moves they're saying now and you haven't checked what they said in the past, it's YouTube. So you can go out there and look at what somebody did a year ago and see if it was right. Do your own research on that. But if you're following people and they tend to be right or maybe a little late on the numbers they called or early, whatever, then that's up to you if you want to use that as a resource for a financial advantage, and I think a lot of people today with all kinds of media get too spun up on what's right in front of them right at this moment and they're not thinking about the chess game. They're playing checkers, just like, Denzel said it in Training Day.
Three-dimensional chess, yeah.
I think
it's chess, it ain't checkers.
Yeah.
What's the guy? I think the best trader I've seen, I guess, talk about his views is Peter Brandt.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of him.
I've heard of him.
Who
he's on
do you
YouTube
think has
or
been?
where?
He's actually on Twitter, but he's been using TA for like 40 years, and he's like basically transferred what he's learned there into cryptocurrencies. And he's like the best one that I've seen because I'm not a trader, but he's someone that makes sense to me, and he's all about positioning and probabilities and locking in profits and not dying.
Right.
He's an older dude, so he's wise, right? Like he's not trying to come out with these exact numbers and then say it could be this or it could be that. It's like, no, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm positioning for, right? This is what I'm seeing, and he makes trades off of it.
Another thing that people got to really put into perspective is what is their goal? So like, and what's their time horizon? That's what just investing in general. Like if you do not care what crypto does over the next 2 years, you're waiting until the 2020 halving, then Bitcoin could go down to $500. As long as it goes back up to 20,000 or something at that point where you might be looking at withdrawing in the future.
Who do you respect?
With regards to TA?
Yeah, with regard someone that looks at patterns, so right,
I really do like Tone Vase because like he's just doing that every day, right? And he's not really I wouldn't say he's looking too far out. So if you just want to know what's going on the maybe this week, that's why I look at Tone Vase for. So also, like,
talk about his thought process, like what.
So he's using a algorithm or some type of program that he put into TradingView.
Okay.
They actually have something similar to his on TradingView, or you can go to his site, whatever. But I have the same version. But there's no need for me to use it because he's doing it every day. So like, I just watch his videos, and I went to one of his seminars when it was up in LA, and it was like a third of the price that it is now. But we talked with him. We sat there all day, and I really did get the feel that for what he does, like he's doing, that's what he really does. He's
I'm asking, what does his algorithm look like?
So it's a bunch of numbers over the candles, and you're looking for 9s and 13s, I believe. But like he explains it every day. Like, if you watch his stuff for any length of time, you should know what they all mean, but he will tell you what they mean every day. Like,
just remind you, yeah.
Right. So he's like, oh, this is the weekly candle. So he breaks it down what candles he's looking at. So you can go look at it yourself if you want. The weekly candle or the daily or the hourly, Bitcoin. He doesn't do a lot of the altcoins. His mainly focus, but if that's the thing, if you're in altcoins, then just disregard anything he says about altcoins because he hates altcoins.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what I was about to say. The good thing about Tone Vase is that he at least knows a lot of the technical stuff, not graph technical, but the actual technological part of things for Bitcoin.
He's more, he's a long-term holder,
right?
Yeah, known maximalist.
So, I mean, I think if you watch him, there's another guy, I forgot his name, but he hasn't put out a video on YouTube in a while.
So what's the significance of 9 and 13?
It's just basically if you see a 13-9, it means pretty much a reversal, and depends on where the day ends, the trading day. So I guess the trading day in 4:30 East Coast time. But wherever it ends, if it ends at a 9 or 13, I believe it shows a market is going either up or down. And he explains that right now. I think we will.
Yeah, but I don't understand. What does that? I don't know. What does that? What does the 13 mean?
So this is all those numbers mean. One of them means like, all right, it's probably going to continue going up.
Okay.
But actually, I think both of them mean it's probably going to continue going up. And if you don't see that, like there's certain numbers where, all right, well, it was supposed to hit a 9 or 13 at this point. It didn't, so it could continue to drop.
Okay. So has that happened? Have you? Can you think of
that's
where
happened.
his sign
that's
basically
happened?
Okay.
And
did it
also
happen during this run up when it got way out of?
Put it like this: when we were at the seminar, he was saying like, yeah, this in the morning, and then by that evening, it did exactly.
His algorithm was seeing some weakness out there in markets.
Well, this is when the market was still going up, and when I went to the seminar.
Well, I'm saying when it's going up, right? For the average viewer, it looks like it can only keep going, right? Where a seasoned trader would be like, okay, I can see some things that are happening, and it's getting very frothy at that level. Is that?
It's weird. Like when you actually think about it, like when you look at it in depth like that, you're actually looking at the emotions of the market.
For sure, which are very important.
Right.
Yeah.
So even when we were going really high, he just like when the market went high from December to January, he was like, he basically gave up. Was like, I don't know what's going on here. Like it's not supposed to be this high.
Well, that's good. I like hearing that. I like when TA guys say I don't know, right? Because you got all those like I taught that just sell confidence,
exactly.
And the guys that are really good are like, I don't know right now,
right?
Yeah.
So and then when we were sitting, I remember hating him when we were sitting at 11 or 12,000. He was like, yeah, we probably be going down to 7,500. And literally,
like, damn, I don't want to hear that. Yeah.
Literally, like everybody was like, "Man, you're crazy, dude! Like, what are you talking about?"
Yeah, we got
like,
all the momentum.
I'm about to unsubscribe to you, right?
Yeah.
And then a week later, almost like within like a 2-3 day zone of when he said it would, it hit that, and then it dropped a little bit to a little bit more, but it was like back up in like 2 days.
Who's the other guy that you respect?
I gotta look him up. But the thing about him, he hasn't put out a video in a while, and I respect that because
he might be in the back cooking up some stuff, right? He's reevaluating.
Ian Morgan on our little on our chat is saying, let me know if you recognize any of these TA guys. There's Big Cheds, Philicone, Eric Cho, Land Marius. No, there's a lot of them, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about TA. Like, there's people who can TA anything. I feel like there's people who could TA the temperature, you know what I mean, of San Diego. And I'm like, oh, because of this, like it's probably he's probably right to a degree, but that's not how I want to get my weather. You know?
Well, that's where it's like if you put a lot of effort into something, even if it's bullshit, it's hard to refute because you put a lot of work, like a proof of work, right? You put all these charts. Like, how can I even like say that's right? I don't know what's going on.
My whole thing is like
you got to see on result. You got to evaluate based on results.
I have been investing in all kind of stuff in times where I haven't had an internet connection in like 6 months, for 6 months. So I don't need any of these guys to tell me anything, tell you the truth. It's reassuring, but at the same time, I see the long-term vision of something, and there's no period where.
Are there any metrics that you use in particular?
So
like a 200-day moving average or some other.
The 200-day, it's nice to look at when people talk about it. If it's a guy I trust,
Trace Mayer's big on that one.
Trace Mayer, I like that. It's just a simple thing that gives me like a time horizon that shows. All right, what's the general?
Yeah, I just like looking at the long-term logarithmic. I feel like it tends toward, like, when it goes up, it eventually goes back down too.
Right.
It can adjust a little bit, but in general, it's been pretty spot on.
I mean, it's like I said, TA is a nice tool to have. It's kind of like the tach meter on your car if you have a tach meter.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
Dude, you're so out of it, man. You're so out of it.
Okay, so I think that's enough on technical analysis. I mean, what about this death cross thing? Or do we have to worry about that?
My God.
No.
Don't even get started with that.
When they talk about it on the meeting, my retard meter just goes through the roof.
Double bottom, dead cat bounces,
all this dead cat bounce.
Yeah, all this stuff. I mean, it's cool.
I feel like they try to come up with like really even provocative names.
Of course,
dude.
What do you feel? This is the media. This is the media, man.
The dead cat bounces. It happens pretty often. But
I saw on Bloomberg they had some nice young lady come on there and talk about like the death cross, and then she just got destroyed in like comments, like I'm like, yeah, it's like she read up a little bit on Bitcoin and then like someone fed her some like death cross thing, right? And then they make a nice little video that's like 3 minutes, put it up on Twitter. Right, you get a lot of interaction from that.
It's that's all they want. Specialists are calling the death cross. And that stupid newscaster.
Yeah. Listen to this young lady that doesn't say and looks nice, right?
Yeah,
that's basically what it is.
Exactly.
Hey, I guess it works.
Oh, Bloomberg said it.
Okay, so one thing that I think it was actually, who was this? I think this was also Vlad Zamfir who was actually discussing this, and they weren't sure if this was an April Fool's joke or not. But it sounds like there's rumblings within Ethereum where they're talking about possibly rumblings within Ethereum where they are kind of playing with the idea of changing the proof of work algorithm to swerve the ASIC miners, to make it a little bit more ASIC resistant. And this is also a recurring theme because I think it's Vertcoin. That was kind of their big thing. They were going to keep on making sure that ASIC miners would not be able to. Yeah, that would not be. He's a big fan over there. He owns tons of Vertcoin. I think you're the only one that does, though. I'm just kidding. But so their big thing was that they're supposed to be ASIC resistant. And when I first heard it, I was like, how are they going to do that? They're going to keep on hard forking? Like this sounds like complete. This sounds like stupidity, essentially. And then Monero decided that they're going to start doing it. So of course, me, I had to rethink. I was like, how do I
square the circle?
How do I merge? Yeah, exactly. So apparently, it's not that hard to change the algorithm to make it more difficult for ASIC miners to mine something. So Monero is actually including it in its regularly scheduled hard fork. That occurs on, I believe, April 6th. So that's one that's coming up. But then also, so it sounds like Ethereum, it sounds like they're thinking of doing this more and more. With Monero, they came out with, I think it's Bitmain came out with a miner, and it specifically was like, oh yeah, you can use it on Monero. And since the announcement of this new hard fork, there's like a little disclaimer where it says something like, oh, there are some people that think that this won't work on Monero, but yeah, we'll see about that.
So I think we need to give a little context to the ASIC CPU GPU stuff, right? For people that don't, because this is a lot of
this is very technical, I suppose.
And it's a long debate within the crypto community, right? Just about mining in general.
Yeah. So essentially,
we'll talk about Monero because you know more about what's going on in the community.
For the record, we are on the clock here. Right. So Monero is a privacy coin, and a lot of the coin projects try to make it so that it's easy for anyone to mine. Mining with a regular computer, mining with a graphics card, which a lot of people have because they're PC gamers or they use it for rendering videos, stuff like that. But over the years, there have been people who've made specialized chips. They call them ASICs. I'm trying to think what it is. It's application specific integrated circuit. Yeah. Right. And these are pretty intense, very very specific, very technical pieces of equipment that cost a lot of money. A lot of times you're talking several thousand, if not over $10,000. And that means that people who are really into mining, they can work their way up, I guess. But otherwise, really only people who have a lot of money are able to mine with these things. And they have so much hashing power that if they have enough of them, there's a concern that they might have too big too big of a portion of the hash power.
Majority shareholders.
Right. Essentially, that there will be too much centralization because these people with these ASIC miners will have too much power over the network. So the idea is to try to make those ASIC miners so that they are no longer to mine the currency. And at first I was thinking, okay, so what are you going to do this every 6 months or so? But they brought up a good point. If you do this enough times and you throw off Bitmain and the ASIC mining manufacturers often enough, they might eventually stop even trying to create ASICs. So there is, in the long term, there is maybe the chance that this could really disincentivize chip manufacturers from trying to create ASICs.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. But until then, it's going to be, I guess it depends on what's easier to do. If it's easier to change the code and fork and then put your community at stake or at risk, because every time there's a fork, I'm
there is
sure
a little bit of risk, right?
There's some bleed off.
Definitely.
There's some bleed off of people that get lost or maybe sell the wrong thing or do whatever, coins get lost. So there's that. And I think before, especially these major coins, just go ahead and do a hard fork, they actually need to think about that. Like, are we at risk right now?
Yeah, what's the bigger risk, right?
Of them being majority or some pool being the majority and then being able to sway our coin a certain way. I don't know what the plans are for Monero or Ethereum when it comes to that, but I do think the Ethereum one, it doesn't matter what Ethereum does because all the other ERC20 tokens are still going to be able to be mined by this ASIC miner. And I think when I think about it, it's like, okay, they should have always made that play, because it doesn't matter if maybe the most profitable coin right now.
I have to correct you. I don't think ERC20 tokens are mined.
They can't be.
They're not mined.
That's what I heard. I mean, unless I got the wrong info.
No, they can't. With Ethereum, I'm trying to think. There will be other. So there are specific algorithms, and there will be a bunch of coins, not ERC20 tokens, but there will be other coins that have the same hashing algorithm. Mm-hmm. And then, so hypothetically, if they swerve the ASIC miners that can do that hashing algorithm, there's a good chance that those ASIC miners will go to the other coins that still have the quote-unquote older hashing algorithm.
Yeah, and this is actually a really old debate, but it'll keep coming up in all these other projects. Basically, the CPU versus the GPU versus the ASICs.
ASIC, right.
And I guess I'll take the others, the ASIC side of the argument,
right?
Where I guess when you're building a blockchain, the best graphic I've seen from I don't know who exactly put together, but it was basically a triangle that shows the trade-offs between scalability, the other safety of the chain itself,
like security.
How hard is it to bring down the chain, right? Because people think that just because someone puts a blockchain in their paper, right, or they say they have a blockchain means it's immutable. It's like, no, a lot of these that can actually be taken down pretty easily.
Yeah.
And then the third pillar is decentralized block production. So when you have a lot of CPUs and GPUs, right, the Bitcoin in the early days was one CPU, one vote.
Right.
So you have a lot of people producing blocks, but you don't necessarily have safety because there's not that much energy on there. And one of the things people bring up with ASICs is that they're application specific integrated circuit. So they are specifically made to hash to do the SHA-256,
right? SHA-256,
right? SHA-256 mining algorithm. So basically, you're putting all your capital into equipment that has one function, right? So as opposed to a CPU or GPU mining operation, where if you could use that mining or that hardware to not only mine something but use it for something else. So say a malicious actor buys a lot of ASICs. If they're attacking the chain, they've already put a lot of money into hardware that only has one use, and that use is Bitcoin mining or Ethereum mining. So it makes it highly unlikely and unprofitable that they would attack a chain with hardware that's only used for that chain, where someone that spins up GPUs or CPUs can basically spin them up and then attack the chain, and then that hardware is still good even if the chain goes down. Right? So the ASICs kind of lock in people and hardware into the system and brings a lot more hashing power, which is like just pure energy, where the GPUs and CPUs are limited. So there are advantages to ASICs, right? And this goes into the debate between decentralization and centralization. So with more safety with ASICs, so higher threshold to take down the chain, comes at the expense of decentralized block production. That's where they say ASICs centralized mining, which is true, right? So that's where we're going to have this tension between decentralization and centralization constantly in crypto. So there are advantages to centralization, and there's also disadvantages. So the advantage of ASICs is increased safety, because you have more. People that attack the chain have more to lose because they've already not only put money down for the hardware but the proof of work. Where the other ones, they could buy all this hardware, use it for crypto mining for a little bit, and then the hardware is still good for other purposes, right? General purpose, whatever, computer. I forgot the acronyms, but you see this trade-off, and it's not necessarily clear that hard forking away from ASICs is necessarily the right thing, at all.
I mean, I tend to think, like, I hear what you're saying with the decentralization and centralized argument, but ASICs is not centralized; it's just less decentralized.
Well, I know
that's kind of what I think,
but that's
too.
I know. Yeah. Well, I understand. It's all in a gray area, right? It's not. There is no. Because it's not 0 to 1 binary.
We can afford an ASICs miner. We can buy one.
Yeah.
So it's not like
like
we're
priced out. Well, like I think it's the Bitcoin mining has objectively become more centralized as we've moved to ASICs, and I think that it's on a scale. So Bitcoin still is more decentralized than the Federal Reserve. Right? You still have multiple parties producing blocks. Right? But it's no longer one CPU or one GPU.
But when we get down to that last Bitcoin,
it's not as distributed. When
we get down to that last Bitcoin, there's going to be no decentralization of who's getting a piece of that last Bitcoin. Everybody's going to know who's getting that last Bitcoin when that happens.
Do we?
I mean,
why?
At that time, because there'll be the hashing power needed. And
be so great,
and that by that time it'll be like, okay, well, it's going to Russia or China, or whoever's pushing the most processing power.
That'll be in like 2140. So exactly. I hope that we're still around. I'd hate to do this. I got to shut things down. I got a meeting in a few minutes. For those of you who are mining Monero without an ASIC miner, keep this in mind. If there are a lot of ASIC miners mining Monero right now, which maybe there aren't, but if the hard fork gets rid of them, then hypothetically your share of the hash rate should go up, and hypothetically things should become more profitable for you. That's if there's anyone mining Monero with ASICs, which I'm not really sure. Trying to think here. Yeah, so we got a lot of things. I'm actually having the first San Diego blockchain development meetup tomorrow. I'm going to try to record that, put something together so that you guys can check it out. For those of you who do like the show, go ahead and go to our YouTube page and subscribe. Give us some feedback if you'd like the video, share it, all of those good things. So until next time, guys, this is your captain and your crew wishing you fair winds and following seas. Set sail.